DxO PureRAW has 4 real changes, and one of them quietly fixes the biggest reason most photographers refused to use it in the past. These 4 changes are smaller files, XD3 for everyone, AI dust removal, and faster batch processing. I spent the last few weeks running it. Here's what's actually new, what works, and what to watch out for. PureRAW is a preprocessor. It takes the raw file, denoises it, applies DxO's lens corrections from their extensive lab database, and hands you back a clean DNG file to edit in either Lightroom or Photoshop, or any other image editor that you happen to have on there that does work with their DNG files. 20 years of camera lens calibration sit behind every process. It is not a Lightroom replacement. XD3 uses a more complex AI model than earlier DeepPRIME versions, so it can recognize finer detail and more subtle color and noise patterns, especially in difficult high ISO images, as you can see on the screen. Earlier methods first interpolated the raw mosaic into RGB and then tried to clean up the noise afterwards. DeepPRIME XD3 uses a single AI model that does both at once on the raw data, so it can separate noise from real detail much more intelligently and avoids the artifacts you often see from traditional demosaicing. This image is a result of using XD3 on a very old Nikon NEF file. One of the biggest changes is that XD3 is not just for Fujifilm X-Trans sensors any longer. It has been updated for Bayer sensor cameras such as Canon, Nikon, Sony, OM Systems, Panasonic, and Leica. And if I've missed any camera manufacturers, well, I do apologize. And you can always post a comment in the comment section below. Here I am demonstrating PureRAW 6 using an older NEF file from my Nikon D3, which was shot at an incredible ISO 12,800. Let's take a look at what it looked like before. You can see all of the grain, digital noise, if you will, color noise, and there is luminance noise throughout this. Just check out the helmet, check out the jersey. This is a black jersey, and check out the grain in the background over here. Now, if we come over here back to this, you can see that we still have some noise, but it's drastically reduced in the background. And look how clean and sharp this helmet is. Look how clean and sharp his gloves are. The writing on the jersey here. The lines around the cage on the helmet. Even the name of the brand. Check out how sharp that stuff is. It's just unbelievable. To process this, I left all the settings at their defaults so we can check out the before and after effects of this image. On a clean low ISO landscape image, the difference between DeepPRIME 3 and XD3 is subtle and most likely not necessary on Bayer array sensors, but on my Fujifilm RAW files, I would definitely use XD3. Not sure if I mentioned this, but XD3 processing does take more time and horsepower than DeepPRIME 3. It has to. It's using more AI technology to process the images. With my older Nikon NEF files that were shot at ISO settings up to and around 1200 to 1600, I will default to DeepPRIME 3, but anything higher than that, I may choose the option of XD3. If I have Nikon NEF images shot at moderately high ISO settings with a lot of fine detail, I may opt for XD3, as the XD stands for extra detail. But that's more of an image by image selection choice, which is why the sort feature in image browsers is so important. And we'll talk about that more later. Be careful with your luminance settings. On this image here, I used the XD3 processing engine and I reduced the luminance setting from the default down to 20. I think the default is 40. Like I say, be careful with your luminance settings. Anything over 70 may appear to look a little synthetic, waxy, plasticky, whatever, however you want to call it. And force details above 30 on smooth surfaces may introduce artifacts. More on this later. Now, I do feel it's important for me to mention that I am a DxO affiliate, and I do have my normal affiliate link in the descriptions below, but I do want to mention that from June 15th to July 10th, DxO is having what they call their summer sale, where you get 20% off any DxO software using my code WarrenSummer 2026. Mind you, this is for new customers only. I'm not sure how my normal discount will work in conjunction with this, but if you're a current user and are thinking about upgrading, then use my normal affiliate code down below. Right now, I want to get back to the first of the 4 new features that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, and this is smaller files. And as mentioned earlier, this was one of the biggest issues that a lot of photographers had with using PureRAW prior to version 6. The RAW files that came out of our camera were, say, 20, 30, whatever megabytes in size, and then when you got finished with it with PureRAW 5 and earlier, you ended up with a DNG file that was 3 times larger, and that is a big load when you're starting to back up your files or you have a lot of batch processing to do or something like that. So this is what I wanted to show you here. First of all, this version works with Bayer sensors. This is an old Nikon D3 camera. I shot this at ISO 12,800. And the original file here, I've got them sitting in front of us here. The original one, which is on the left, the NEF, was 16.8 megabytes. Normal compression from within PureRAW 6 would bring this thing up exponentially. The original NEF file that came out of my camera was a whopping 16.8 megabytes. Don't forget, this was a 12 megapixel sensor, and it was quite a good camera, actually. The uncompressed version, after running it through DeepPRIME 6, the megabyte size is 50.9. Think about it. 16.8 it started as, and now running it through the uncompressed DNG funnel, it came out at 50.9 or 51. That's a lot. That's a lot of time and a lot of space on your hard drives. Now we have something which is called High-Fidelity DNG. After running it through PureRAW 6 using the High-Fidelity DNG model, engine, whatever you want to call it, the file size is 14.4. It's actually smaller than what the camera generated. That to me is very impressive. Unbelievable. It's just what these guys at DxO are able to do with the technology that they're working on is nothing less than outstanding, stunning. I'm blown away. You know, and I'm not saying this just because I'm a DxO affiliate. I'm saying this because this is true, this is real, and we need to take advantage of this. Depending on the file sizes that are coming out of your camera, you will see similar results. And I encourage you to download the trial version. Of course, use my affiliate link. But it doesn't cost you anything, all right? It doesn't cost you anything, and I don't get a commission if you just download the trial. I presume, I don't know, I've never checked. I'm kind of new to this, but I don't think I make anything at no cost to you unless you actually make a purchase. Download the free trial and run through a couple of images and see the difference. Just the file size itself is enough to get people to jump on board with this product. Unbelievable. Never mind the lens corrections, the sharpening, the denoising, the demosaicing that goes on. I mean, all of that stuff is just well worth it. And I'll have a screenshot of the current prices as of June 2026. Now, looking at the quality differences between the original NEF file and the high-fidelity DNG that was given back to me, can't see the difference. I can't anyways. Maybe you can, but I can't, and I just got brand new glasses. The high-fidelity DNG files are compatible with both Lightroom Classic, Capture One, and Affinity Photo on Mac OS, with limited capabilities on Windows at the time of this writing in June 2026. Here's a note. Luminar Neo and Darktable will not open these files at this point in time. If those are your editors, then leave the compression off and just export your JPEGs and your TIFFs. One last note on this topic. You cannot compress an existing DNG file retroactively. You have to reprocess from the original RAW file. Now I'd like to talk about the third new feature in PureRAW 6, and that is AI sensor dust removal. No different, I guess, than other dust removal features in RAW editors, except for one thing. this thing will do a batch. So if you have 20 images in a folder and that dust spot is in the same spot, PureRAW will just run the dust removal feature on all of them, and you can go off and do something else while this is processing in the background. Let's take a look at this image here, where in the upper left-hand corner you will see a speck of sensor dust. You also see that there's a couple of small birds in this photo. There's actually 4 of them. Sometimes dust removal software will pick up on these little guys and remove them as well. So this is where moving that slider up from the default of 20 further down and back and forth, you'll find your sweet spot. In this screen capture, I've moved the slider all the way up to its maximum at 100. And then when you either click and hold on the actual slider, the little white piece at the end that you're sliding, if you click and hold on that, you'll see where the software thinks there's dust. These little circles will indicate that. That, or you can just move your cursor into your document window and these guys will show up. Now, obviously, 100 is way too high and the software is picking up who knows what and thinks that that needs to be removed. I don't think that's what's necessary in this image, so I'm going to move things back down a little bit. And I have found that this value at 38 removes that sensor dust. If I had moved this down to 37, the dust comes back. Move it up to 38, it disappears. Who knows? If I had gone up to 40 or 50 just as a random number, maybe my birds would start to disappear too. Not 100% sure, and it's not the point. Point is that you need to move this slider back and forth a little bit when you notice you have sensor dust on there. So it just removes the sensor dust and not the small details that are in your image. At this point, Lightroom and Adobe's AI dust tool are now very, very capable of removing dust particles. Probably just as capable as PureRAW 6, but doesn't do batch like these guys do, if at all. Something else to take into consideration is that for astrophotography and, as I've mentioned, small distant wildlife, those can be considered danger zones. The AI can read stars and birds as dust and may remove them. Always check your results before committing to anything. Before I start talking about the batch parallelization process in PureRAW 6, I would like to mention that I have created a companion PDF that goes along with this video, and the link is in the description. It's free, and after you've had a look at it, please come back to this video and give me your feedback. Okay, so now with the parallelization screen in front of you, you'll notice that I've got 5 images that I am batch processing. Taking a look at these individual images, you'll notice that there are some little blue progress bars on these guys. So now what this is saying is that we've got one going and another one working on. If you take a look at the second image, you'll see in the lower right hand corner there's a small little tick mark. That means that the batch process, for whatever reason, chose to start with that one and then moved on. Also look at image number 4 and 5 in the lower right hand corner. You'll see another icon, and that's looks like a clock, and it just means that they're next in sequence. I'm showing you all this because I want to explain to you that PureRAW 6 starts preparing the next image before the current one finishes, and that you can see here with the blue progress bars. So a batch flows instead of stopping and starting. This is a time saver. Independent testing on 40 100 megapixel Fuji files, obviously from their medium format cameras, showed DeepPRIME 3 went from around 12 minutes in version 5 down to about 6 minutes in version 6. Obviously, your mileage will vary depending on the processing engine you choose, DeepPRIME 3 or XD3, and of course your computer's processing power. I've noticed a significant speed increase when using PureRAW 6 versus PureRAW 5. With my current machine, I would say at least a 30, possibly even a 40% increase in time spent processing both my Nikon NEF files and my Fuji X-T4 X-Trans RAF files. All of these 4 new features make it well worth downloading the trial software and seeing how it helps you in your workflow. Since a lot of you viewers are using Lightroom Classic as your main editing piece of software, I'd like to take a second just to show you how you can access PureRAW 6. The way to access PureRAW 6 from within Lightroom is to go under the File menu, scoot all the way down to Plugin Extras, and then in that flyout menu, you'll have your 3 different options. Preview and process, which is the recommended option at first. Process instantly and process with last settings are choices you'll want to make once you understand how the software works. And I've actually set up some presets, if you will, all that kind of fun stuff. The way to access PureRAW 6 from within Lightroom Classic is to go under the File menu and then scoot all the way down to your Plugin Extras, and then from there you'll have your 3 choices. The first one that you should be using is Preview and Process. That gives you the full interface, everything going on. Once you understand what's going on inside that, then you can actually choose one of the other ones, which is Process Instantly or Process with Last Settings. After processing and PureRAW 6 has returned your file back into your Lightroom catalog, you're going to want to do a couple of things. First of all, you're going to want to turn off any and all lens correction and noise reduction and sharpening options in the Develop module. Turning off the sharpening little icon there is one thing. What you need to do, at least from my experience, what I think you should do is actually take the sharpening value, which defaults to 40, and take that down to 0. So you're not applying any sharpening. You have no noise reduction because there's no checkboxes in that thing going on. And you have all of your lens correction things turned off. You really need to do that because you don't want to double up on that. Don't forget, PureRAW 6 already dealt with everything that these guys would do. One last thing that I need to talk about, and that is in your Lightroom catalog settings, you need to choose the option I've got highlighted here, which is automatically write changes into XMP. This will enable any edits that you do prior to going out to PureRAW 6 and then round tripping back. Any of those edits will be applied when the image comes back in. Now, I want to talk about pricing. The cost of a brand new version of PureRAW 6 is $139.99 US. If you're upgrading, it's only $89.99 from version 4 or version 5. Now here's the question. Should you or should you not upgrade? Well, if you're currently a PureRAW 5 user and your camera is a Bayer array sensor camera, then XD3 alone is a strong case to upgrade. If you hated the DNG file size that was produced in version 5, the High-Fidelity Compression option for your DNG files alone is a strong case to upgrade. If you do high-volume batches, then Parallelization moves the needle. Question is, who can wait and who needs to move on and pick it up? Question is, who can wait and not pick it up right now? If you meet the previous criteria and you're on a Bayer array camera sensor, then you should consider upgrading. If, on the other hand, you shoot mostly low ISO, full frame, modern lenses, then your improvements will be incremental. You'll notice them, but maybe not that much. If you live entirely in Lightroom and use their AI denoise and AI heal, I don't know. I'm just thinking that maybe the speed of the batch processing would be enough to convince you to move over. The bottom line is version 6 is the first time PureRAW feels like a tool you'd run on every keeper, not just your rough ones. Does that make sense? Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And don't forget about the free companion PDF that I've got linked down in the description. And as always, I appreciate you watching.